Welcome to The Compressor Guru. This is the Electric Guru. You may ask, why is the Electric Guru doing the intro? Well, the camera wife and the Compressor Guru both have bad colds, so they sound lousy, really garbled. My wife was asked, and she doesn't like the sound of her voice. So the guru finally gets around to me, lowly me, number 4 in this particular lineup. Yes, I'm good enough when he doesn't understand how an electrical switch works, but I digress. So I'm doing the intro. So here is the guru with whatever he did not show you last episode about tearing down a 15 TIR.
Welcome back to the Compressor Guru. We're going to do an unexpected part 2 to the 15T rebuild. We had 2 identical machines, and the customer was into the other machine and robbed some valve parts, and to multiply our problems, we had a camera problem that neither camera caught the intercooler coming off, and it's actually more interesting than just your average intercooler. So we're reshooting that first. And the rest of this is basically part 2, stuff that didn't happen in the video 2 weeks ago. So this is part 2 of the 15T. And folks, I'm going to unashamedly ask for money. Down on the bottom, there's 3 little dots on the right side of the screen. If you push on that and click thanks, I will tell you this. All the thanks money that you guys donate, I'll put towards a new 4K camera, because we're getting desperate. And yeah, I can buy a 4K camera, but it's your way of saying, bud, keep making videos. Anyway, we're going to do that. Your help would be appreciated. By the way, guys, I found out what that little noise in the background is that you can hear. I have a leaking valve on the bottom of my air tank. It tells me there's no water in it, or be dripping water, but that noise you hear in the background is the air tank. And yes, I will get it fixed before the next episode. Sorry, guys. So we're on the intercooler here, and the reason I wanted to show this is because this is a pretty nice deal. We got 3 bolts holding the whole intercooler on after we get the little brackets off. Now that one's still hooked. I don't want to loosen it yet. That one's out. That one's out. And the whole thing's loose. So I got my knee against it. Oh, you know what? Before we take that out, when I was taking these covers loose, you see that camera wipe? Mm-hmm. We have several broken intercooler tubes.
Oh, they're not supposed to do that?
No, they're not supposed to do that. And over on this side, they have an intercooler tube plugged off with a pipe plug, and you can't see it down, it's underneath. Oh. But this one definitely has intercooler problems, and we do have what appears to be a good intercooler off of this machine's twin. But what I wanted to show you here about this particular machine was these manifolds and how this all comes off together. So it already broke loose, and there, the manifold's loose. So this whole thing's held on with 3 bolts, and this is kind of heavy, so we're going to turn the cameras off, and I'm going to grunt and put it out of the way. But in all likelihood, we're going to be making 2 machines out of one, and we'll use the other cooler and probably be working on this machine. But that's one of the things that we didn't get on camera last week. I don't know why they didn't work, but so that's how to take the intercooler off.
So was the intercooler in the other one, was it loose like that at the top, down with those things coming out?
No, it's in better shape than this one. These tubes are supposed to be connected into these fittings right here. And, well, there's a pipe plug in that one, but the next one over there isn't. So they just, somebody somebody tried to tie this off, but they had several broken tubes. And these tubes are replaceable. I have these in aftermarket. That's not an issue. By the way, we sell parts for all these compressors we work on. Don't send me an email and say, where do you suggest I buy parts? This company or that company. The company I suggest is The Compressor Guru or Steiner's Compressor and Supply. We're the same guy. So I took the oil seal cover off, as we did already on the other machine. But what I didn't show you is to remove the crank, there's a ring right here. And this is not always the easiest said and done, but you get your ring pliers.
And we have special ring pliers.
Yes, we do. These are actually for installing rings onto a piston, but these work good here too.
Not to sound redundant, but I bet we sell those.
We actually do.
Sorry.
Oh, it's okay. That's my little tool sales girl. You know, we should run a tool sale and let you get all the commission from the tool sales. I bet people love you so much we'd just sell out. Bang, like that. There we go. Now, when this machine is the rest of the way apart, because this won't fit in my press, well, you're going to have to stay tuned to see how we push this crankshaft out.
Will we be able to use that ring again?
Yeah, but the new bearing that we rebuild this with will come with a new snap ring.
Oh.
But I'll save it just because we save stuff. So we're going to go to the old machine and we're going to take the low oil shutdown out. And while this is like this, we'll knock the crankshaft out of the other machine. And then we'll come back to this one and finish up what you didn't see last week. So we're back to the machine that we worked on 2 weeks ago. And this is basically identical to the other machine. But Belle, this switch is upside down. Camera wife, can you see that little tiny arrow there?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know what was in the screen. So that is supposed to be at the top. And when it's pointing straight up, it's properly adjusted. Now, if you look inside, we got our float. I can reach down through here. We got our float right there. And that float floats in the oil. And this one doesn't come off easy. Some of them are hooked on by little cotter pins, but this one is spring loaded. So I'm going to hold it straight and take and crank this out. Watch me get slapped in the face with that.
I'm sorry, I'm zoomed in. I'd like to see that. So you can't unscrew that float on the inside because it...
No, now some of them, I'll show it when it comes out. Some of them have a cotter pin that you can take out and install the float when it's inside. And it just fits out the hole. And some of these will have a pin that goes through and you can take the float off. But when this is properly installed, see that arrow's up? And you know what? There's something wrong here. This is totally messed up because this switch is bad. What it should do is if it gets low on oil, this float drops down and there's a switch in here, a micro switch, and it breaks the circuit holding the coil together in the magnetic starter. You put oil in it, the switch comes up, the switch closes, and your machine will run again. If it gets low on oil, it shuts it down. But this won't even go into the right position, and normally when you turn them, you can feel the micro switch click. So this switch is very pricey, and this switch is bad. But
Because you don't feel it click.
you can feel it, and even a deaf guy like me can hear it do a tiny little click on the inside. And there's nothing there. I hear noise, but I don't hear the switch click. But this is a low oil shutdown. This is the inside. And if you remember, I'll show a picture of it. There's an oil guard in there to keep this from getting splashed around and bouncing. And it keeps the oil bouncing around inside from doing this to it. And it lets the oil in this section stay nice and calm so this switch works properly. But this switch isn't working at all, so it'll go in the scrap metal pile. Okay, now that that's done, I have to pull the snap ring off of this one, and then we're going to set this down flat in the floor, and I'll show you how to take that crank out. Just for some extra weight, we put the next project for the Guru, which won't be televised, but we put the next project on a pallet, and so we had weight on the forklift. Now we're going to drop the forklift down, and we're going to put weight right on the end of the crankshaft. So we've got some weight on that crankshaft. Now we're going to take a sledge. By the way, I have a nut protecting the threads. Don't ask me to do it again. I'm not putting it back together to tear it apart. So 2 weeks ago, we tore the valves and the unloaders off. And what we found was somebody was in it and robbed a bunch of parts out of it. I do not know if the same thing happened here, but we're going to find out. So we're going to take the unloader off, pretend we don't even know what's in there, and I don't. All right, we got appropriate parts. We have our spring that goes under the unloader piston. That's a good thing. This is on the springs that keep it from, without air pressure pushing this down through the piston, that keeps it from unloading the intake valve. This looks promising. There one spring. This looks promising that nobody was in this one. And the nut that retains the valve is still attached. I do want to mention something else I only showed a minute of last week. This says out. This is the discharge on the high pressure side. It says in over here. It says in here, which is the intake or where the filter is on the low pressure side, and this side says high. Now I'm telling you all that because all the ends don't go on one side. The end goes to the end on the high pressure side is coming from the manifold and the intercooler. So when you're putting this together, you go, well, the ends were on, that's where the air goes in. Well, on the high pressure side, the air goes in from the manifold and comes out right here. So take note, when you're tearing one of these apart so you can get it back together right, where the in and out is on each head.
You mean it would be a good idea to take a picture, before pictures and after pictures?
Absolutely, at least before pictures. Now we're taking this apart now. We're taking this nut loose because if we wait to take this nut loose when this head's off, it's almost impossible. There we go. And that's what we have to do is just loosen it.
You're not taking it out?
No, because if I take it out, the valve will drop down inside the piston.
Oh.
It's not my first rodeo, honey.
See, like I said, folks, you gotta learn something while you're doing this.
week we learned that the valve down in is countersunk, so it can't actually pull up. Oh, this has been in leather or something.
Because it's not nice and shiny.
No, it's not nice and shiny, and there's a broken valve disc. That may have been why they pulled it out of service.
Was that just laying in there?
It fell out on my fingers right here.
Ah.
So,
Well, we might not get valves out of this one.
well, we'll put new valves in, but what we cheated our audience last week on, was there were no valve parts in the other compressor. And there's a valve disc, and there's your spring. And we'll put this in the vise and loosen this nut and take this part of it apart also. We may or may not do that on camera, but that's kind of obvious to my regular viewers. So we have a couple threaded holes, so we'll put bolts in those. Put the bolts in, and I'll PB blaster this first, and then we'll run this apart so we can look at that valve surface. So hopefully this is more of the same. This is the low pressure side. Hopefully we got all of our parts in this one too.
So if I zero in on this one, it says in on this side.
Correct, because this is where the intake filter goes. By the way, I want to show you something. Now I realize my fingers are dirty, but they were not taking care of this compressor very well. That's dirt that was in the compressor when they took the valve, or when they took the intake filters off.
How old are these compressors?
I don't know. I know that Ingersoll doesn't even make parts for them anymore. All parts have to be aftermarket. All parts have to be aftermarket. Yeah. This sawdust should not be in there. They had holes in their air filters. Guys, keep your air filters clean. However, we do have our
Is this from a sawmill?
Yes, it's in a sawmill. And we have our unloader. We have our springs. And we're going to knock our...
The big one in the center off first.
Yep.
Don't forget to be taking pictures of this stuff, folks, so that you know what order it was that you had and the order that you did it in. I'm not sure a professional like the compressor guru.
Or the camera wife from the sounds of it. Oh. And that's a proper way to take the valve off, or take the valve assembly out. We're going to take and spin that nut the rest of the way off.
Hey, this one doesn't look as bad.
No, it's not all rusted up. Wonder how long they let it set outside till they brought it in. So this is all crudded up. That's a highly technical term us mechanics use, is crudded. And there's your valve spring. There's your valve disc. And part of the head is actually the bumper where the valve disc rides. And this does look pretty decent. I'm guessing this machine was pulled for that broken valve disc we found on the high pressure side.
Okay.
So folks, I sent the camera wipe away because I was just going to tear this down, but something of interest came up. So I took the bolts out of this, picked it up, and there we go. Uh-oh. That piston's not intact. Here's the rest of that piston. Remember last week I told you that we had problems with the machine years ago that the tolerances got bad on? Because of the wear inside of this housing and this broken piston, this is going to go in the bad pile because I know that those pistons can give us trouble. So I took that off and went, ooh, that's not good. And then I picked this up and I'm like, uh-oh, this is all damaged. Where's my pins? My pins are trapped down on top of the valve. So I'm not letting the camera wife go. She's going to shut the camera off while I get this prepped, and we're going to pull the rest of that head off. Okay, so we're ready to pull this, and well, that hasn't been pumping for a while, obviously. And we're going to have to pull that cylinder to see if there's any damage there. But with those pins, I'm going to get one of those pins out, maybe all of them. That pin should have been attached to that triangular piece we pulled out. So you never know what you're going to find when you tear these apart. I thought this was pulled for service because of the broken valve over there, but my guess is they just let it run with all kinds of problems. You got everything we did in part one, we're just going to redo in this. But we had stuff that we didn't do 2 weeks ago, and that was pull the crank out. That was, we didn't have valve parts in our heads. We didn't take the low oil shutdown out. You now have seen all that, and this is just repetitive, same kind of work. And we're going to tear it down, and because of the damage in that high pressure cylinder, the damage from rust, it really looks like they're going to get one compressor out of two. But we'll address the economy of this in a future episode after we find out how many parts out of each we can use. We already know that we have one intercooler that's bad, and we had a cylinder that I since checked from last week that is not repairable. So hopefully we'll get one low pressure cylinder out of these, and we should be able to do an economical rebuild. I did check pricing on parts. Just the bare kit to rebuild this, your rods, your rings, your valve parts, and gaskets, is $757. We sell that kit. Unfortunately, right now, it's not in stock for 2 weeks. So before we get to go back together with this, we're not going to have parts before our next episode. So what I'm going to do is, we have another Facebook, Navigating the Jungle Facebook Marketplace figured out for you. And so come back in 2 weeks and you'll see how to do that. Guys, thank you. God bless you. The camera wife's back today. Her mom's out of the hospital and home. Life is good. And we're back to our regular schedule again. And thank you. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Hit that like button and hit the subscribe button. And if you want to help us buy a new camera, go hit the thanks button. We appreciate it. God bless.
Thanks, Guru. I just found out I was number 6 on this list and not number 4. I really feel low now. Well, folks, thanks for watching. Like and subscribe, and have a nice day.
I don't like the sound of my voice.
No, mean.
I don't like the sound of my voice.